Naomi thought she was stopping by home for 5 minutes, just long enough to grab a phone charger. But the second she opened the backyard gate, confetti exploded into the air. Music thundered through the speakers. Champagne glasses clinked. More than 100 guests filled the yard, laughing beneath string lights and giant floral arches. In the center of it all stood her younger sister, Alicia, glowing in a white dress with a diamond ring raised proudly toward the crowd. "She said yes!" Everyone cheered. Naomi froze. No one had invited her. No one had even warned her. Then her mother appeared beside her with a smile so polished it almost looked rehearsed. "Isn't this wonderful?" she said. "Your sister's engaged." Naomi barely had time to process the scene before her mother added something else, casually, like discussing the weather. "Oh, and we took out a $17,000 loan in your name to help pay for everything. Consider it your gift to Alicia." The music kept playing, people kept laughing. Someone nearby snapped photos while Naomi stood there holding her car keys in silence. And in that moment, something inside her changed forever. Because this wasn't just betrayal, it was proof. Proof that the people she loved had never really seen her as family, only as a resource. Growing up, Naomi had always been the dependable one. Her sister Alicia was charming, dramatic, impossible to ignore, the kind of person who could make a mess and still somehow leave the room adored. Naomi was the opposite, quiet, responsible, practical. When their father left years earlier, Naomi became the invisible glue holding everything together. She worked late shifts through college, paid her own bills, helped cover household expenses, and rescued Alicia from one financial disaster after another. Late rent, maxed out credit cards, missed car payments. There was always another emergency, and every single time her mother would say the same thing. "Your sister just needs help right now." Naomi believed helping meant love, so she kept giving, until the engagement party. That night, instead of arguing, Naomi walked back to her car and opened her banking app. There it was, a loan she had never approved. Her information had been used, her signature forged. Even the contact email belonged to her mother. Her stomach tightened, but she stayed calm. She froze her accounts, locked her credit, and reported the fraud immediately. Then she opened a hidden folder on her phone. Inside was a video clip recorded months earlier by a nanny cam her family forgot existed. In the footage, Alicia laughed while scrolling through wedding ideas. "Naomi's never going to get married anyway," she joked. "Might as well use her credit for something beautiful." Their mother laughed too. She should feel honored to help family. Naomi watched the clip once. Then she sent it to every single guest at the party, 102 people, including Alicia's future mother-in-law. The caption was short. She said yes, just not with her own money. 12 minutes later, chaos erupted. Guests stopped smiling. Phones started buzzing. Whispers spread across the backyard like wildfire. Derek, Alicia's fiancé, stormed out after watching the video. The celebration collapsed before dessert was even served. And Naomi, she quietly grabbed her charger and drove away. For the first time in her life, silence had worked in her favor. The next few weeks revealed truths Naomi had spent years avoiding. Her family hadn't just taken advantage of her occasionally. They had built their entire lives around the expectation that she would never fight back. Old memories suddenly looked different. Family photos where she stood in the background carrying bags while Alicia stood center stage. Birthdays where Naomi paid for dinner, but Alicia blew out the candles. Holiday gatherings where Naomi cooked, while everyone praised her sister for bringing energy to the room. Even their mother once texted someone, "Naomi thinks being needed means being loved." That message broke her heart more than the stolen loan ever could. Because it was true. She had confused sacrifice with affection, and now she understood the cost. Instead of exploding emotionally, Naomi became methodical. She hired an attorney, collected screenshots, organized receipts, every Venmo transfer, every text message requesting money, every fake family emergency. She built a timeline so detailed it looked less like revenge and more like evidence. Then she did something unexpected. She told her story publicly, not to embarrass her family, but to reclaim herself. She wrote a blog post called "When Family Becomes Financial Abuse." It wasn't dramatic or hateful, it was honest. She described what it feels like to become the responsible child everyone depends on, but nobody values. The child praised for being mature while quietly being drained emotionally and financially. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from strangers across the country. People shared stories about parents opening credit cards in their names, siblings manipulating them for money, relatives weaponizing guilt in the name of family. Naomi realized she wasn't alone, and neither were they. Meanwhile, the truth began catching up to Alicia and their mother. Vendors demanded payment after learning the contracts contained forged signatures. The credit union launched a formal fraud investigation. The engagement ended. Alicia's carefully curated social media image cracked almost overnight. For years, Naomi had watched her family protect appearances at any cost. Now appearances were collapsing on their own. But the biggest discovery came later. The family house, the same house Naomi grew up helping maintain, had legally been left equally to both sisters after the divorce. Naomi had never been told. Her mother simply assumed she would never ask questions. This time, she did, and the court sided with her. Months later, Naomi stood inside the home again. Only now, it belonged to her. The rooms looked smaller without the noise, without the manipulation, without the constant pressure to earn love through usefulness. She renovated slowly, fresh paint, open windows, sunlight where heavy curtains once blocked everything out. For the first time, the house felt peaceful. Not because the past disappeared, but because she no longer carried it the same way. Her blog eventually became a platform supporting survivors of financial abuse within families. She hosted workshops, spoke at conferences, helped people rebuild damaged credit and damaged confidence at the same time. One young woman wrote her a message Naomi never forgot. "I thought I was selfish for saying no to my family until I heard your story." That message mattered more than any apology ever could, because healing changed Naomi in ways revenge never would have. She stopped apologizing for boundaries, stopped shrinking herself to keep others comfortable, stopped believing love had to hurt to count. Months later, Naomi saw her mother again outside a community event where she had been invited to speak. Her mother looked older, smaller somehow. She held a box of old family photos against her chest. "Naomi," she said softly, "I miss my daughter." Naomi looked at her calmly, then answered with words she had spent her entire life learning. "You don't miss your daughter," she said. "You miss access." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. But Naomi continued, "You miss the money, the silence, the version of me that never said no." The woman standing there wasn't the exhausted daughter who once believed survival meant obedience. She was someone entirely different now, someone whole. Before walking away, Naomi said one final thing. "Blood makes people related. Behavior makes them family." Then she stepped inside the building and closed the door behind her, not angrily, not dramatically, just finally. Later that night, Naomi returned home to the quiet house she had rebuilt from the inside out. Warm lights glowed across the living room. Her tea steamed gently beside her laptop. The space felt safe. Not because everything painful had disappeared, but because she no longer abandoned herself to keep others happy. That was the real victory. Not the lawsuits, not the house, not watching people face consequences. The real victory was learning that love should never require self-destruction. And for the first time in her life, Naomi understood something powerful. She had never been too quiet. She had simply spent years surviving in rooms that only valued her when she was useful. Now she had her own voice, her own peace, her own future, and nobody would ever write her name onto another debt again.